Hey everyone, Jesse here for 3Prong Gaming, and in the last episode we finished setting up our little clock and date area down here. We set up, more specifically the last episode, we set up the date, and if you remember from the last episode, there is a bug in version 4.9 with enums converting to bytes, so we're unable at this point to display the name of the month. We set up the functionality for it, however, so hopefully when the bug is fixed, we can go ahead and get that incorporated rather simply. There is a way to work around it, but it's long and verbose, and really it's not worth the effort because they will fix the bug hopefully soon. So right now we just have it displaying a number digit for the month, which is just fine because that's really irrelevant to anything we have to do. It's just nice to have it there. All right, so in this episode, we're going to start setting up some functionality for our buttons here so that we can spawn a building and move it around and place it wherever we want. I do want to preface this by saying that we've been pretty lucky up to this point as far as when we are done with an episode, we can push play and we've got something to show for it. Now, I think at the end of this episode, we'll have a little something to show for our efforts, but we're going to start getting into not necessarily difficult things, but more complex things. And by doing this, it's just the way programming is. You're not always going to have something to show for your work at the end of the day, but it all comes together at one point. So just be prepared for that we won't always have something to show for our work, but yeah, we're going to do what we can. So let's get this started. I also want to mention, throw a shout out to Redstone Powered Blaze. Back in episode 6, he left me some nice feedback, and we had a decent conversation there about some AI and just some other things going on. So thank you for that. And at any point, if you guys want to give me some constructive criticism or just have any questions, then go ahead and let me know. And I like conversing with you guys. So let's get this going here. First and foremost, we're just going to create a bunch of blueprints that we're going to end up needing. We're not going to put stuff in all of them, but we need to get them out here because we need references to them. So let's create a couple new folders, and let's go ahead and call this first one construction. Create another folder. Let's call this one buildings, and this is in my blueprints folder here. And let's open up construction, add a blueprint class. We need an actor. Let's go ahead and call this one construction manager underscore BP. Create another one, blueprint actor, and let's call this one construction proxy BP. Let's go into our buildings folder. We're going to need 3 folders in here. Call this one residential. Another one called commercial, and one more called industrial. At this point, I don't have anything for industrial, but I know eventually that's something that's going to be needed, so might as well just add it now. All right, now we need another blueprint class. Select actor, and we will call this one building master underscore BP. And our next one will be blueprint class actor ghost building underscore BP. All right, control save, get that all saved up. Now, where do we want to go? We need to go into our interface first. Let's open this up real quick. In the last episode, we kind of just did some quick setup for this episode here. I want to change this from build buildings to, let's call this something a little bit better because this doesn't actually build a building. Let's just call this construct building. I like that. It rolls off the tongue a little bit better than build building. All right. And now that we created those other blueprints, let's change its input type from actor to, this will need to be, come on. Building master BP. We need to make it of class. All right, so compile, save that, and we can close that. We don't need that anymore. Blueprints. Let's go ahead and open up our player controller. All right, and in our event begin play, let's add 2 pins here. This first one, let's go ahead and drag off of this and do spawn actor. If I could spell actor from class. All right, we're gonna need another one of these, so just Control W, put it down in here, and then plug that into the next pin. Now this first one, we are going to use Construction Manager BP. Okay, and on the second one, this will be the Ghost Building BP. Go ahead and select that. Now we need a transform for these. These are going to be, well, at least the construction, it's going to be a data only blueprint. So you're never going to see it in the world, but we need persistent, make transform. We need a persistent item that we can update. So it's got to be spawned into the world so we can have one instance of it that we can continually update. All right, and it needs, but in order to spawn, you got to have a transform. So we'll just leave all the coordinates at 0, 0, 0, just default. Same thing with the ghost building. We will set the ghost building coordinates as soon as we spawn it. So that's not a big deal. We just need to spawn it into the world. So we need that persistent as well. And collision handling default, I believe it defaults to try to move, try to adjust location, but don't spawn if colliding, something like that. We want this to always spawn, so ignore collisions. Same thing with this, always spawn, ignore collisions. Compile it, save it, and we need to create a couple new variables here. So right click on this pin, promote to variable. Let's call this one Construction Manager Ref, and set it to the category of references. Same thing with this one, right click, promote to variable. Let's call this Ghost Building Ref. And again, set this to the references category. Okay, and that should work for now. Let's go ahead and comment all of this. And just so it makes it easier to find, begin, play. All right. And we did set down in here the event construct building for what we're going to need to spawn the ghost building. We'll come back and touch on this in just a few minutes. What we need to do now is we need to go into our, well, let's compile this, save it. Let's go into our ghost building BP. Open this up. Now we've got a default scene root here. So what we need to do is we need to add a component. Go static mesh, not the instanced. We need the regular static mesh. Let's call this ghost building underscore mesh, so we know that it's a mesh item. And then just drag it and drop it on top of the default scene root. We don't need a scene or anything in here. We'll just leave that as the default scene root. Okay, what else do we need to do? We need to create some variables and go ahead and hit variable here. We need to create a controller reference. So let's just do controller reference and make it of type camera pawn controller reference. Okay, and we need to expose this on spawn. And I've said it before, and I'm pretty sure I said it before. If not, well, this is the first time, and I will say it plenty more times as we go through this. Casting, you're going to do a bunch of casting as you go through and build your projects. Casting can be a real overhead, especially as many as you need. So whenever you can eliminate the need to cast, you need to do that. So I'll show you here. We're going to expose it on spawn, and we'll go back into our player controller right here, and might as well do it since I'm already in here. You'll see, did I compile? I didn't compile. Compile it and go back into your controller. You'll see now we've got controller reference. So all we need to do is go self, get a reference to self because we're in the controller, and plug that in. So now when this spawns at begin play, it will set that variable for us, so that eliminates the need to do any casting. Okay, we don't only cast to it here because, well, we're spawning it. So we're saving a decent amount. In the long run, it will be a decent amount of overhead. Okay, so the next variable, I'll go ahead and create this one. We'll call this building class, and it needs to be of type building master BP. We need to make it a class. Go into another variable. Let's call this one construction proxy and hit enter. It needs to also be a class, but it needs to be of construction proxy BP class. Another variable. Let's call this one is active. Click that. It needs to be of type Boolean. Boolean. That's a fun word to say. Boolean. Makes you feel a little foreign. Boolean. I've got my Boolean. And display mesh. And this one needs to be of type static mesh reference. Compile it, save it. Let's go into the event graph. We're going to end up needing some of these, but let's just delete them, get them out of our hair. All right, first thing we need to create a custom event, add custom event right there. Let's call this one on spawn. All right, now we need to add some new inputs. We need 3 of them. Let's just go ahead and this first one we'll call display mesh. And like the other one, it will be of type static mesh reference. Another one, we will call this one pretty much the same thing as the construction. Let's do this one, building. Sorry, it doesn't matter really, but we'll do this building class. And obviously, this is what we're going to bring into here to set our variables. So we want to be able to pass these through this event to set our variables. So that's why we're naming them the same thing. So construction proxy, and set that to construction proxy BP class. All right, yeah, that looks like that's good. Compile it and save it. So now when we call this event, essentially what we want to do is we want to set those variables. So first though, we need a branch. All right, take this is active, plug it into the condition, and we need to make sure that it's not active before we do anything with it. We'll switch this on and off as we need to. So right here, what we need to do now is if it's not active from the false, true, we're not going to do anything with the true. So with the false, pull out, actually, let's just go ahead and alt drag in our building class, construction proxy, and our display mesh, as well as our is active, all as setters. Line these up a little bit here. All right, so from the false, plug this in, and then just chain these together here, like so. Okay, and then the is active right there. Select the is active as positive. Now we want to set that as a positive or as a true Boolean. So now it can't loop back around and do on spawn again if it is set to is active. And then just plug these all in. So we need building class, construction proxy, and then our display mesh. Okay, so compile and save that. Now what we need to do is down here at the very end, we need to set the static mesh. Now that we got the display mesh here, let's go ahead and drag out our ghost building mesh from here. Just drag it and drop it into here. Pull off the pin and let's do set static mesh. Okay, let's plug that in now to the execution. Grab our display mesh variable that we just set, and there we go. That will set the static mesh of the blueprint with whatever mesh that we end up passing through. So we could probably go through and clean this up. I don't want to do that right now. I'll clean that up on my own time, set up the nodes so it looks a little bit nicer. We're not going to run anything off the true. So we can just slide these up a little bit, I suppose. All right. Save that. Now let's go into our building master. All right. Actually, before we do this, we need to make a couple more blueprints here. Now this is going to be, this building master is, as the name implies, the master of all the buildings. It's going to be the parent, the grandparent, the great grandparent, whatever it's going to end up being. it's going to be the ultimate building blueprint. All right, so we need to create some children of this. So right click on Building Master BP, create child blueprint class. All right, this first one we would call residential master underscore BP. Do it again, right click Building Master, create child blueprint, and this one will be called commercial master underscore BP, and we'll eventually need Dawn for industrial, but I'm not going to do that right at this point. All right, now we're not done with this. So now, if you're not quite sure how the parent-child relationship works, let me try to explain this best I can. This, as I said, is the parent. So anything we put in here, variables, functions, macros, events, will be inherited by its children. So in this case, the commercial master and the residential master. So each one of those children have access to all those functions and variables. It can set those variables and it can set those variables independently of its parent to create different functionality. It can also override the functions that the building master has, but it's all set there. So anything you do in the master, ultimately you just want to do general stuff that everything's going to need. And the reason why we created a commercial master and a residential master, while they are of type building, they're all going to be building. So every building has a basic same need. Okay, but a commercial building has a different need than a residential building. So with that, we create the children so that we can add new variables, we can add new functions specific to a residential building or a commercial building, and later an industrial building. Okay, but we're still not done with this yet. These are still masters. That's why we named them master. So go ahead and we'll leave commercial blank for now. Let's right click residential master, create another child of the residential. Well, it's the first child of the residential master. Let's call this one apartment small underscore BP. Now this is the one that will be displaying the mesh. This will be specific. So we'll create other children. This for every residential building we'll have. We'll create them as children of this. So it'll still inherit from here, but as well as now its grandparent, the building master. It will inherit everything from the building master, everything extra in the residential master, and then it can also, just like the others, create its own variables, functions, and macros independent. Now the grandparent, or the building master, which is the grandparent, doesn't have access to the extra things you set in residential or apartments. It doesn't work that way. It only works up. Only the children have access to the parent. The parent does have access to the children. All right, hopefully that makes some sense. Control S, let's go ahead and throw these all into the proper area here. So residential and apartment, let's just drag and drop these into the residential, move them there. Same thing with the commercial, we'll just move that into here. We won't create a child of that quite yet. Move, and let me see. Yeah, so we'll leave that like that for now. Let's go back out here, open up the building master. Okay, now this for right now is going to be relatively simple. We need to open full blueprint editor. Come on. There we go. Okay. So drag that and put that up here. Let's just go ahead and delete these for right now. We need to create some variables. Again, these will all be available to every child of this blueprint. And it'll be really nice. I'll show you here in a minute why it's really nice to have this building master, because it's going to make it real handy when we start spawning buildings. So new variable, again, we're going to need controller reference. We're pretty much going to need this controller reference everywhere. So let's go controller, where is it? Camera pawn controller reference, and expose it on spawn and editable. So that way when we call this, we can just pass that in there if we've already got a reference to it. And if we don't have a reference when we spawn this blueprint, then we can always just cast it in here if need be. But yeah, we'll just expose it anyways. Let's see our next one, and actually let's do this, references. Okay, another variable, let's call this one display mesh. Make this of static mesh reference, And one more variable for now. We'll call this one construction proxy. Okay, this is going to get a little bit confusing how we do this, but as it all ties together, it should hopefully start making a little bit of sense. All right, but it's still kind of, sometimes it's kind of hard to wrap your head around a little bit, but yeah, it's not that bad. So we've got this now. So now we need to go into the construction script, right? Pull out, let's see, we need to go like this. Let's go add a scene, just a regular scene component, throw it in there, leave it called scene, drag it onto the default scene root. All right, now grab another one. We need a static mesh component. Select that. We'll just leave it as static mesh. Okay, compile it so we have access to it. Now drag out your static mesh here, and then pull off of this. We need to set static mesh, not this one. We need the component static mesh, the function with the F right there. Select that, hook that up, and then take our display mesh and put it into there like so. Tidy it up a smidge. All right, and that's pretty much it. Now that's going to set our display mesh for us when we spawn the building. So now the nice thing, like I said, about having the building master is you can imagine that in a game like this, we're going to have a ton of different buildings that we're going to want to spawn. Well, we can't check and cast for every single building we're going to have. That's just going to be a pain in the neck. There's just no way we could do that. So the best way to do it like this, now we can cast to just this building master. And if a child is if a blueprint is a child of this building master, then it will automatically recognize it as a building master. So we can, that's the only cast we have to make is to building master. And if it's of type building master, then we can spawn it. Not a problem. Okay, so let's go into residential really quick. Select the apartment small. We're not going to do anything with the residential master right at this point. We will eventually. Now we need to go over here to defaults. Make sure your class defaults are selected. And we have even though you don't see those variables we made here, it's inherited by all of them. You can see static mesh inherited, scene inherited. But if you want to see the variables that you inherit, then you just click the eyeball and select it, and now you can see everything right there. However, we don't want to see all of them. It just kind of gets in the way. You just want to see what's available in this particular blueprint that you made. But right here in the default settings, you can set stuff right here as you need to. So let's set a static mesh for it real quick, a display mesh, and select this. Let's see. Let's go out here. Let me show you starter content. I did make a generic mesh for this, but I don't have it imported in this yet, so we're not going to use it. So right now we could just use shapes. Go into your starter content, select shapes. Now, mostly shapes seem to be okay. I know there's one or two in here. You need one with the pivot point at the bottom. You don't want one that's in the center of the mesh. I don't remember which one or which couple have the pivot point in the center. If you're unsure, just double click it, open it up, hit show pivot, and if it's not at the very bottom, you don't want to use that mesh. Same thing if you're making your own meshes, you need to make sure that the pivot point is at the bottom of the mesh. Otherwise, it's going to fall through the landscape when you place it, because the pivot point is what it sets on. So that was the pyramid. So let's just select this and go pyramid. Just the quad pyramid is fine. And there it is. Now it shows that because of the construction script, it throws it in here in the viewport, and we can see that. So let's go ahead and close that for now. Now let's set it up so we can spawn it. Go into the ghost building real quick. What we need to do is we need to create one more custom event. Let's call this one kill ghost. Okay, so now when we call this, what we need to do is now we need to take all 4 of these. Just Control W or Control C, and then come down here, Control V, paste them, copy and paste it. Just link it all up, and we're not going to set. We need to set these back to default, so that's why we did this here. Kill ghost. It'll reset all these for us, and make is active false. Okay, and I don't think we need to do anything with set static mesh. I don't think we need to clear that out right there. Compile it, save it. Now let's jump back into our camera pawn controller real quick. Now this, we're running up on, we're just over 25 minutes, about 25 and a half minutes. No good, so let's try to hook up this custom event right here, this construct building from the HUD interface. All right, what we need to do here is just go ahead and pull off this main building and do spawn actor from class, right? And we'll go set this what it's going to be here in just a second. Again, we need a spawn transform. We're just going to make transform 000 right at this point, which means it's just going to spawn at those coordinates in the world. We will set it to follow the mouse shortly. Now we set this controller reference, so we need another reference to self. Put it into the controller reference there to set that variable for us. And then we need to pull off of this. We need to get the display mesh, get display mesh, and then we also need to pull off this and get the construction proxy. Okay, pull off it like that. Now we need to take, let's go like this. We need to pull off of this. And we need to go cast to building master BP. We need the class right here, building master BP class. Go ahead and hook this up. Let's just reroute some of these nodes real quick. I know we're running short on time. I want to keep this under 30 minutes. Hopefully I can do so. Trying not to rush through this too bad here, but yeah, you know how it goes. All right. So first things first, and I didn't put that in my test one, we need to kill the, let's go ahead and pull, we need this ghost building reference, pull this out, get it. We need to kill ghost. Just to clear it out, it'll make a little more sense as we have a couple buttons hooked up. But we need to clear those variables before we set anything. All right, so you kill the ghost and then again pull off of this one, and we will do on spawn. There it is. That now we got all those variables we exposed there. So go ahead and hook this up. So now our display mesh, pull off of there, plug in our construction proxy, pull in and plug in the construction proxy, and then from this cast of the building master BP, just take this and put it into the building class on spawn. Compile it, save it. One last thing we need to do is go back into our HUD, our main UI HUD. Okay, first I want to change this real quick from restaurant to construction office. That's going to make more sense to us than it will a restaurant right at this point because of the AI I've been working on. All right, go into your graph. Now all we need to do is in our first button, we're just doing the apartment right at this point. Select the main building class, find apartment small BP, click on that, and now that's what's going to be passed through into all of there, and everything, all the variables set in that will be passed through. When we call it, that apartment BP will be passed through, and those are the variables coming from there that will populate this on spawn. So that should be it. We should be able to test this. It's not going to follow our mouse yet, but we should be able to spawn it into the world just to get some instant gratification. So click apartment, bam, there it is. You can see right here we've got the apartment BP6, and if we click it again, you won't be able to see it because it's going to spawn the exact same location, but you'll see another one add up and another one add up. So right there we got 3 of them in the world. So perfect. That's exactly what we want right at this point. Like I said, it gets a little more complicated at this point. Hopefully I didn't go too fast. I was really trying to keep this under 30 minutes, and I think I'm right at 30 minutes right about now. So I kept my goal. It wasn't too tough at this point. We didn't add a whole bunch of actual programming in there. We just added some blueprints, did some variables, and hooked it all up. In the next episode, though, we'll try to get it to follow the mouse cursor. We'll get that all set up. And yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Hopefully you learned a little something from it. If you did, please do me a favor. Go down and hit that like button. It helps me out a ton. If you're new to the channel, go ahead and subscribe to it as well while you're down there liking it. And check out one of the other videos that are playing on the screen. And until next time, peace.